Dave, you're so off the grid.
Yeah, I know. Just do yourself a favor. Don't post anything online.
That's it. Cancel the internet. Done. I'm pretty blunt, so.
You got this, man.
Welcome to the Hashtime Show, your weekly source for cyber news and info. This is episode number 16. On today's show, Dave, Chris, and Jeff discuss data privacy, cybersecurity acquisitions, and Data Shield at RSA TechFest. Check us out online at hashtimeshow.com. And now, on to the show.
Welcome back to the Hashtime Show, your weekly source for cybersecurity news and info. This is episode number 16.
Getting some NPR vibes right now.
Why? Because it's the lighting in here.
We're the welcome back to the Hashtime Show. I'm Chris Vincent.
Sorry. Let me start over.
You don't look like Chris Vincent.
No, I don't.
You don't look.
I sound like him though.
You do. You are starting to sound like him. You have that same kilohertz range. As Dave just alluded, I am your host, Chris Vincent. I'm one of your hosts, Chris Vincent. Across the table from me is Jeff Marshall and
Hello.
Dave Norland. For the camera, Jeff and Dave, and I'm Chris.
And for the camera, we now have Hashtime Show socks.
We have our new merch store going up soon. Support us on Patreon. Just kidding.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, this is episode number 16. This is our first week after 3 weeks in a row of we don't have a guest now. We're back to just the little tribe.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, we have a guest, but she won't join.
We have our
dear.
new show producer who's behind the camera right now. Okay, so
No one's going to know what that means.
yeah, sorry. Jeff's daughter's here. Hi. So we're your weekly source for cybersecurity news and info, and this week we are going to talk about just that, cybersecurity news and info. And I hope later on the show you guys can educate me on. I know we've talked about the emerging technologies in cybersecurity a lot, but
No, we actually never talked about that.
we talk about it a lot. Automation, AI, but there's three specific tools I wanted you guys to help educate me on because you guys are our experts. Okay.
Is that a Phillips flathead and a wrench or
Yeah. Allen key.
Allen key?
Before we do that though, segment number 1, getting to know you. So I heard from you guys that you guys are going to be
Which one of us?
at I think both.
Oh, okay.
You guys are going to be at RSA TechFest. So every year, so let me give anybody who's not familiar with us a little background. So RSA, big company, do lots of things. One of the products they put out is called NetWitness. It is a security information and event management tool, right? Software, also an appliance. And we're very, very good at managing that at Data Shield. So we have the most customers.
We have our moments.
No big deal.
Sometimes we impress ourselves.
So we actually got spun up originally to help manage that. But anyways, get off the infomercial. RSA does a charge event every year. And right after the charge event, which is sort of like your traditional trade show, they do TechFest. So explain TechFest to me. I know Charge really well. What's the idea around TechFest, Jeff?
Yeah, so first we'll be at Charge and have a booth at Charge. So that's mostly GRC and compliance, but there's getting a larger and larger NetWitness presence there. And then immediately after is RSA TechFest, which is basically all technical employees within RSA and partners. And they kind of go into a lot more deep dive into technology and roadmaps and, how to do innovative things with the products. So Dave and I will be presenting at TechFest, kind of a landscape of customers and MDR and kind of how we do things differently.
Aren't you guys giving like the keynote, if you will?
Is it a keynote?
I don't think it's the keynote, but
It's not the keynote, but it's pretty big
Let's
deal.
keep advertising it that way.
Yeah, where do you
That's
guys?
good.
I mean, our ugly faces were on the, the informational email that went out to every attendee.
Yep.
Well, I'm excited about that. So I know you guys can't spoil what you're going to talk about at Charge until after you give it. Then I can put it up on the website and make you guys famous. But
Even more famous than we already are.
more famous. Yeah. I mean, nothing's going to top when we bring the movie out, and then
That is true.
Yeah.
we'll be hailed as genius producers. Mm-hmm. But can you guys
All hail Cyberdog.
can you guys give me and us a little bit of a context around what you guys are talking about at TechFest?
Sure, really. We're kind of educating people in the landscape of where customers are today, where trends in cybersecurity and posture changes are in today's landscape. And kind of why customers are outsourcing and what their take on outsourcing is, and then kind of how our unique approach helps our customers deliver that.
Yep. Seen a lot of changes in the industry in just the past few years, and we're definitely on the front lines of that. So I think it's a little bit more education and just kind of sharing our experiences as a MSSP that provides MDR. So it's kind of a unique take on it. And as one of the biggest users of RSA technology, I mean, it's very relevant to what they want to know about. So
we're also pretty excited. We're hoping the talk gets approved, but we've got a talk we've submitted for a couple other conferences towards the end of this year and beginning of next year around threat intelligence and kind of the mystifying threat intelligence. So we're excited about that one too. We hope that we get to present that 2-3 times.
That's awesome. I mean, as a CISO, let me ask you this. As a CISO, do you find these types of conferences to be something of value to you as opposed to being pitched a product?
You know what? I still truly believe you get the value out of what you put into it. Right. So, I've seen just about everything that you can think of from a conference perspective. People go just for the boozing, people go for education. You kind of get what you put into it. So, I would say for anybody who's never been to a conference, going to their first conference, make sure you experience a little bit of everything. Attend the talks, attend the events, learn something, network with people, ask questions. Don't ever be afraid to ask questions. So, I think you get what you make out of it.
You get what you put in. Because I think like for me, we talked last week about how sales in this industry can be a little bit of annoying and bad. And I think marketing too, this industry is so saturated with marketing that's confusing as heck. So you're not even really sure what a certain company does or doesn't do. And there's all these seminars, symposiums, roundtables. And I feel like that I wanted to ask you as a CISO, is that just fall on deaf ears? And it's more, you're saying no, but if they're going to go to one, you need to put some energy in if you want to get any value out of it.
Yeah. I think, me personally, I think that's what it is because, I've had people who've gone to conferences and didn't really feel a value out of it, but another person went to the same conference said, hey, you got a ton of value out of it. So I really think you've got to plan, right? I'm big on planning.
Sure.
Look at what's going on, how far you are from things. Plan stuff out so that hey, I absolutely cannot miss the following talks, and then build your schedule around that so you can ensure that you're getting the knowledge of the things that will help grow you as a security professional, help grow what you're doing at your current organization. Then you can fill in all the gaps with random things if you want.
Okay. Good tips from Jeff. All right. Well, guys, good luck at the talk. It's in 2 weeks, right?
Yeah, week after next.
We'll have one more show. You're on the road, though, after this, so we're going to be having you phone in.
A little bit in and out. I think the one next week, I'll be back for the podcast on Thursday.
So when you go on the road, though, who are we going to have fill in for your seat?
I'll call in.
You call in? Okay.
I'll call in.
All right. Sounds good.
And if I can't, then we'll find somebody.
We'll strong arm someone in here.
Yeah.
Maybe you can have Alex or something.
Yeah, I was about to say, we'll grab someone from the SOC.
There we go. Okay, perfect. Let's jump into segment number 2, our news of the week. So we did our ransomware themed episode last week.
Let's do another one.
And there was so much ransomware ransomware in the news this week that I tried to pick the ones out that were ransomware. So don't yell at me if I didn't get any of the big hot ransomware takes. So headline number 1.
Ransomware
Ransomware is happening.
Speaking of which, I'm going to throw one really fast one in there that was interesting that came up yesterday. But actually, Flagstaff up north yesterday was hit. The entire school district got shut down by a cybersecurity incident, but they have released nothing about it.
I read this afternoon that it was ransomware.
Okay. That's what we suspected based off of that. So there's our ransomware for the week.
There you go.
There we go. Since we're already going off the rails, let me ask you guys, I was reading through the news. Have you guys heard this term crimeware?
Yeah, it's a pretty old term.
What does that mean? Is that different than ransomware?
So I think people use the word crimeware just to segment out the for-profit stuff, right? Like these are things that people are trying to gain revenue for profit. They're crime syndicates.
Illegally.
They're known syndicates of things. Like they're known people, known campaign, known groups that are doing it to gain profit.
So it's the way of segmenting out the hacktivists and those types and the script kiddies out.
You know, a lot of times it's the same kind of tools. It's just purposed for I don't know, different reasons. I think it's pretty interchangeable. A lot of malware exists to make money, so it just kind of depends on how you want to describe it.
I actually sent Dave one earlier today that was pretty good. Well, actually, it was last night from one of the head guys over at Google Chronicle that they did a pretty good mapping of crimeware and stuff over the last.
That was the dark reading article that I was referring to.
Yeah. So he posted it on his LinkedIn, and I read it before it was on dark reading, but it's pretty good. So
are you guys excited that your guys are going to be LinkedIn celebrities soon? All the quotes I'm pulling.
I'm already a LinkedIn celebrity.
Dave, you're so off the grid that when I try to find an extra picture of you, which I still need, by the way, so please.
You got one right now. You got several million of them, I'm sure. Every frame, another picture.
I literally tried to Google every variation of you. Couldn't find anything of you.
Yeah, I know.
Until I started putting you out there.
So my first big public presence is at Data Shield, which is fine.
Don't believe any of the stuff you read about me. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, GP Marshall, the guitarist in Nashville, literally.
The good news is I got a very generic name, so thanks, Dad.
Yeah, right. Same thing with me. What was I? Okay, what were we doing? Oh yeah,
I don't know.
Headline.
What are we in here
Next
for?
news article.
What is this place?
Headline number one.
Headline number one. Next one. Google to pay $170 million for violating children's privacy on YouTube.
Your kid's face is on YouTube. That's all I'm saying.
Duh. Yeah, before the show started, we were talking about my kid wanting to do be a YouTuber, and so I challenged.
I think that's pretty much our kids are similar age. I think that's every kid in their class probably.
Yeah, he wants to be a YouTuber, and I said, cool. So, and he also wants a new gaming computer, and so he also loves the internet challenges. 30-day. I said, I'll give you a 30-day challenge, do a YouTube video every day, and then we'll get you what you want. So, but I know this. I know Google because I've been playing the Google game for a long time. I know that they're taking my information and using it back at me to sell my information. I know this because I see how they rank websites. And so for them to do it with YouTube and to take, let me read the quote, but for them to do it with YouTube, to me seems like a no duh. Like, of course they're stealing this or not stealing, exfiltrating this information and using it. So let me read the quote. Google and its subsidiary YouTube will pay a record $170 million to settle allegations by the FTC and the New York Attorney General that the YouTube video sharing service illegally collected personal information from children without the parents' consent. So, information privacy issue, right? What's your guys' take on this? Dave, what do you think?
I think it's hard to control because how are you going to know if the user is 13 or 18
or
however old?
I think they make you select that, don't you?
Yeah, but anybody can create a profile.
Agreed.
I was 16 years old and I created my first Gmail profile. So I don't.
How old did you say you were, Dave?
Probably 18. Or whatever the age requirement is. But I know, like Steam, for example. If you want to see something that is rated for a certain age, then
just put whatever date.
Just put whatever date you want. That's like people have been doing that for decades now.
So it's kind of like a no duh kind of if you want privacy, then don't put your kid's face on YouTube.
Exactly.
I don't know.
You keep your kids off the internet.
We talked about this. It's a
Skynet, so they got everything anyway.
They got everything anyway. This is the thing people don't understand about YouTube. So this is something that I'm near and dear to my heart. Even the most successful YouTubers that are like, I watch a lot of guys like that do like audio equipment reviews, or like Jared Dines or Stevie T, these metal dudes that do guitar stuff. They have, or Bro Science is another good one. They all have, he's a great one. I love Bro Science.
Hilarious.
Dumb.
Educational, scientific.
It's great.
Very good.
They all have like 2 million subs. So their videos, some of them get 1 million views. Those guys do really well. It's nothing even close compared to what the kid stuff is.
Yeah.
Ryan's Toy Review in them, we're talking 10x. I mean, an insane amount of subs and views. And those are, they're actually doing a lot of paid product placements and a lot of merch in the video. They make a ton of money, and it's very influential on kids. I see it with my kids all the time.
I saw some article with the amount of money he made not too long ago, and it's ridiculous. I mean, he's got toys in Target now and Walmart, and now he's in one of the Happy Meals in one of the fast food places. It's just absurd. So
yeah, I mean,
I think if you're at that level, then you have no expectation of privacy. Just my opinion.
You don't. I mean, my daughter watches like stuff like Catboy and Janny, but she equates Janie, which is this little girl, has a YouTube channel with her family to Catboy, a Netflix produced, TV show. It's the same level of entertainment to her. One's just a mom shooting her. I mean, it's pretty well produced now that they're making a lot of money. But it's a mom shooting. And then, so for kids, they're getting my daughter's information. They're creating an advertising profile for her. And it works because they know how old she is, or they're getting an idea how old she is. They advertise back to her a playhouse for a 2 to 5 year old. And then she goes, Daddy, I want this house. And then I pull out my card and buy it from Amazon. So good job, YouTube. It's working.
It just seems so exploitative. How do you avoid it though?
Your Alexa heard you and just auto-ordered it.
Yeah.
I saw a great meme the other day, by the way. If you have not seen it, it's James Franco, and it says something about like my wife asked why I was whispering, and I said because they'll hear me. And then he laughed, his wife laughed, Alexa laughed, Siri laughed.
Yeah, all of them.
Yeah.
So before it was I laughed, my wife laughed, my toaster laughed, and then I shot the toaster. That's where that meme originally came from. Yeah.
So, quick sidebar. So, as you guys know, I'm building out our social media here, and I want to start coming up with cadence. I'm a big process guy, so I want to have a process around certain things we do different days of the week. So, your standard corporate stuff, employee spotlight, maybe a whiteboard Wednesday, video Wednesday, podcast on Monday, because we're going to shoot it on Thursday and put it out Monday when I get my crap together. But Friday, I'd like to do Meme Friday. So we need to really work about how we're going to do this. I need some content for Pinterest. You know what I mean? That's
my daughter could be chief meme officer. That's all she does is memes.
Chief Meme Officer.
CMO.
So think about that. Roll that around in your head. Okay. Headline number 2. Twitter temporarily disables tweeting via SMS after CEO gets hacked.
Oh no, the tweeter.
So perfect.
This article is so great. Jack Dorsey was on the Joe Rogan Experience recently, and it was a great episode for a lot of different reasons. Anyways, so here's the quote: Twitter today. You
got this, man.
Twitter today finally decided to temporarily disable a feature called tweeting via SMS after it was abused by a hacker group to compromise Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey last week, and sent a series of racist and offensive tweets to Dorsey's followers.
I mean, how many could he really have? Like 10, 15?
Yeah, he's got quite a few. I mean, these tweets were like so done by like a millennial type person.
Yeah, but this is where this comes in, right? This is a theme of what we've been talking about. Look at Antonio Brown from the Oakland Raiders, right? He had that comment he complained about on Twitter, and now he's suspended.
Oh,
right?
I didn't hear about this. What happened?
Yeah. So the GM wrote something on Twitter, and he basically bashed him, or he wrote something and he basically bashed him on Twitter, posting it back, and they suspended him. Really? Yeah. So I said either this guy's a genius or he's an idiot. It's the swatting thing too, right? People getting, the police, a SWAT team at their house, busting down the door when they've done nothing.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you're going to continue to see these things, right? I mean, and people see the power. You're having people get fired or
yeah. Do you remember the original story of the gal that flew to Africa and was like, "Hope I don't get AIDS, ha ha ha." Yeah. And then when she had landed, she was already fired.
I mean, you got people who are being knocked out of political races because they're finding stuff, getting fired from jobs. Yeah. Celebrities getting bashed down because they had some tweet where they made some comment.
The Kevin Hart thing.
Yeah. 10 years ago or whatever it is. It's...
So that's the reason you can't find me.
To bring this full circle.
Yeah, to bring this full circle. Like I'm not going to start posting crazy stuff, but you never know when something that you said in jest under certain circumstances or just randomly taken out of context 10 years ago ruins your professional life.
Yeah.
I feel like everyone should embrace that viewpoint, I think.
I feel like eventually we're going to get past this, though.
I don't think so.
So I'll tell you
I don't think so.
I'll tell you that's changing, right? Because if I recall when I was a kid, which was too long ago now, there was a lot of things that people said around stereotyping and around, we would
use words you can't use today.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, I see that trend starting to go back the other way, and it surprises me because there's so many people that get offended about things, right? Like I'm not a very easily offended person. You can say just about anything and I'll either laugh or I won't.
Yeah.
I'm not going to get offended. I may say that's dumb or you're an idiot, but I'm pretty blunt. So, but you see I've seen kids nowadays say comments kind of again towards what we heard as a kid, and it's starting to come back again.
Are you looking at YouTube comments though? Is that what
not just YouTube comments, but like I hear friends of my daughter say things, and they
what
think
are they
it's
saying, Jeff?
I'm not gonna get into that.
This is a corporate sponsored podcast.
They'll make half racial jokes and things.
Geez.
But I will tell you the thing that's interesting to me is they have a completely different view on sexuality stuff, right? So,
Here we go.
I mean that, like, they're very sensitive about, LGBT and things like that.
Sure.
But then they'll make racial jokes that they think are funny, but they don't take it seriously.
Interesting.
Right? But there's a lot of people who just get offended over this stuff. So to my point, social media is very powerful. And when people put these things on social media, there's a huge impact. So if you can hack someone's account, put one simple statement out there, you change that person's life.
Yeah, you totally can. I mean, some of these tweets in this article, what is plug walking? Do you guys know what that is?
I have no idea.
I see my daughter behind the camera busting up, turning red.
Oh, she knows what it is. Okay. Plug walking, aqua up in this BITCH. Like, there's all kinds of stuff in here. It's bleeped out. I mean, there's a bunch of funny stuff. It seems like there was some young kids having fun.
Meme and popular
doing some
type.
Meme and pop culture type stuff.
Yeah.
I think it's funny because Jack Dorsey was totally sidestepping all the comments about their certain political initiatives, which is they're being accused of being very left-leaning and how they've silenced right-leaning people.
So
and then it's funny for him to get this, which is what they've banned people for doing
Exactly.
on Twitter. It's very
we had
ironic.
this conversation yesterday, right? Because we have this marketing guy named Chris. He's also a host of a popular podcast that is now taking all of our podcasts and turning them into blog posts, and words are out there, right? And we had a couple individuals concerned because they mentioned the Drudge Report on as a platform for things.
Yeah.
But it wasn't meant to promote.
But if you look at just the written text, it looks ridiculous.
That is very true.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But it wasn't meant to
it was
promote
me
the Drudge
who
Report.
said the Drudge Report.
It was I.
It was
I.
be nice to you, Dave.
No, I mean, it's not hard to figure out how many people have been on the podcast.
But the goal wasn't to promote their political view. It was to say their platform was good. But to that point, you could have some listeners read that and all of a sudden say, oh, well, they have this political view. I'm no longer going to listen to
it looks,
right?
Well, here's the whole point. So the whole point was you guys are the experts here. And if we get here and we talk, it makes it easy for you guys to kind of educate me and therefore educate our audience, and helps me market our brand, which is our people. It's a big part of our people. So transcribing the podcast is great, but a podcast is a conversation. It's not a tech article.
Yeah.
So there's going to be funny joking
I'd love to hear
around.
you see what that translation of my laugh was.
Yeah. Haha, LOL. I wrote LOLZ. But like on the first episode we ever did, which was we were just getting to know each other, literally getting to know you. And one of the ones we laughed about was I made a joke about Tucson being the armpit of Arizona. And then Jeff, you said, are there many homeless people there? And then Dave, we all kind of laughed, and Dave goes, I'm not going to comment on that. We go, he's not going to comment. But if you read it, it just says, is Tucson the armpit? No. Is there a lot of homeless people there? I'm not going to comment on that. If you just read it in text, it doesn't.
So what you're saying is basically you're sabotaging our careers as soon as this is found.
Maybe.
That, and when you Google armpit Tucson, we're going to come up everywhere.
Right away. So yeah, the whole text thing, the whole social media, it's an interesting topic people have talked about in a lot of podcasts.
So again,
being
I think
held
this is
accountable for what you're saying.
This is where we need a statement at the beginning of our beginning and end of our podcast, where we basically say the views are our own.
Don't reflect the views of Data Shield as an organization, or ADT, our parent company.
Just do yourself a favor. Don't post anything online. It's simple.
That's it. Just
That's it. Cancel the internet.
Yeah.
Done.
Save so many problems.
So this is funny, very ironic. Haha, Jack Dorsey. Okay, on to the next one. right.
Jack got.
Headline number 3. Palo Alto Networks.
Who are they?
Palo's firewall, right?
Who are they?
Yes.
Firewall. Okay. Just want to make sure. I thought so.
They're increasingly, as you point out in this article, becoming more than just a firewall company.
I should have done, like I did Cimatech, I should have done like Paleo Alto or something like that. Said it totally
Your
wrong.
environment's on the paleo diet.
The Paleo Alto.
Only letting clean packets in here.
Okay, so Palo Alto. The network delivers strong Q4, acquires Zingbox for IoT security.
Another week, another Palo acquisition.
From the Palo
Yeah,
acquisition.
I mean, if you look at both Palo Alto and VMware, they've made a lot of security acquisitions recently. They're trying to.
Broadcom, too.
Well, Broadcom bought.
Did it say
One,
the purchase
right?
price in
McAfee?
here?
Yeah.
$75 million. They acquired them. So what does Zingbox do? Their IoT security.
Really putting us on the spot
platform?
here.
No, I'm just curious. They have firewall and Cortex platforms.
Honestly, I had not heard of Zingbox before this.
Okay. Shout out to Zingbox. Everyone check them out.
The answer is, Chris, I don't know.
But we know it was important enough that Palo Alto paid a lot of money for him.
So let's talk about this. The reason why I brought this up, we talked about threat intelligence firms getting acquired. There is some, Dell has acquired a lot of security organizations. RSA has acquired some stuff. Are we going to see this industry? Right now, there's a lot of small shops out there providing professional services, and there's a lot of small software, SaaS type of businesses. Do you guys think that we're going to see a contraction in this business?
You have to, because people only have so many hours in the day, and you can't interact with 80 different vendors
like we were
in
talking
your
about
IT
before.
infrastructure. So
Yeah, I mean, this is part of our talk as well. But more and more customers are talking about vendor fatigue and needing to consolidate vendors. And there's been some pretty good published articles and papers on this over the last year or two. But there's a lot of vendors out there. I mean, we've talked about this once before, but at RSA conference in February, there was literally 126 different endpoint vendors. Like, at some point, some of those have to explode, go away, merge together. I mean, it's not going to sustain, right? The security market is hot right now, and it's never going to go away. But there's going to be a change in how products are delivered, how services are delivered, and where the delineation between the two are.
I think this is kind of a response to how turbulent the market is, because things move so quickly and smaller organizations tend to struggle to keep up with that change. Sometimes they can adapt really quickly, but other times they don't have the resources to do what they need to do to move in the right direction. So I think you're seeing this because these larger companies know that if they get all these different components under one umbrella, then they can provide a better service in some ways.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at some of these things, if VMware is a perfect example, right? They're already in your data center. They're already a core of your data center in a lot of companies.
Right.
So they go acquire all these security companies, and they start to layer on all of these add-on pieces and expectations from a security perspective. So now you go to one place and they can sell you 42 modules instead of you buying 42 products, right? So there's some, as we used to put it in the old days, one throat to choke. It's like there's less vendors to go to and deal with, and it helps reduce. In some ways, there's a risk reduction because you have less places to go to, less vendors to worry about. In some ways, honestly, the risk is just as high. So it's a balance of risk, and I don't want to spoil an upcoming podcast on risk management, but I think risk is an important thing, but finding a balance is tough.
Sure.
And you can look at it as kind of like this horizontal merger. I mean, there was a time when there was a lot of concern about antitrust and people getting too far into certain spaces where they control every aspect of a market. I wouldn't say that we're flirting with that, but it's maybe on the horizon, because you look at Microsoft Azure, and nothing to say, not saying that Microsoft Azure is bad, but you have a SIEM provider, so they're doing Sentinel now.
Yeah.
And then they're also providing basically all the hosting, all the data storage. So at what point does one company or several companies control the full spectrum of what you need for an IT enterprise? And is that okay? Are people and enterprises and companies, are they okay with accepting that kind of one or two vendor control over basically their entire operations. Like just a few days ago, AWS, they had an outage on the East Coast, and people actually lost data because of that. So consider that, no data center is infallible. There's always downtime.
There's always some downtime.
Yeah, exactly. How much do you really want to consolidate? I mean, this is kind of a tangent, but everybody wanted to move to the cloud. In 5 or 10 years, will we be making the case for on-prem devices because of like
contracting back?
Yeah, this circle of change is the more you consolidate, the fewer number of failure points you have.
And I believe the answer to that is probably yes.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look back in the day, people like Sun Microsystems were trying to build these ginormous servers to semi-virtualize and do all these things, right? And then after a period of time, they went back to selling you a bunch of smaller servers. And then VMware came out. So I believe just like fashion, trends come and go and repeat themselves.
So I have two things to add on to this. The first one is, this reminds me of my old, being in business school and the way my instructor, I forget what class it was, but I'll never forget the analogy he used. He talked about industries forming and how they move and grow. And I talked about clock speed, I think, on a recent podcast, where every industry has a different speed in which it moves. I think it was aerospace, with aerospace having a long, so that's going to impact how fast this happens. But he basically equated industries like when there's a deforestation in an area, right? There's a wildfire or whatever. When the new flora and fauna starts to come back into that space, all of them compete kind of almost equally.
Yeah.
And then eventually, over whatever period of time, you have one kind of dominant flora or fauna life that takes on. And the example, they talk about the soft drink industry, as I think Coke is the one. It was either Coke or Pepsi became over time the dominant player. And then you have a secondary, very strong player, but not quite as dominant. And then a bunch of little guys. That's the way that the industry, and there's a bunch of different examples. And you can see that with search engines, right?
Sure.
That came out first. There's
OSs,
AOL, everything, right? And that's happens over a period of time. And it becomes very hard to change that unless you deforest again and to destroy the industry.
I mean, if you go back, there used to be 100 Linux variations and
there still
10,
are.
a dozen Unix variations, and there is, but
none of them have the market share.
Yeah, look at BOS, right? I mean, I was a big proponent of BOS back in the day. All my stuff was BOS or FreeBSD, and those in the marketplace are not dominant players, right? Like very few of them have stayed dominant or grown their dominance, right? So you're going to see that in every industry, like you said.
I think it's interesting what you said, Chris, about, the forest burns down and then it gives the opportunity for new life to grow.
Yeah.
Same happens with industries.
Sometimes the forest burning down could be a new technology, though, too. It could change this landscape.
Yeah, I understand the Amazon's burning right now, but isn't it like a positive thing when that happens to an extent, because it allows like for new growth to take place, especially I think in business cycles. But when you look at how integrated everything has become, what does the forest burning down in IT look like? Like, does it require a data center to fail? Like, does Azure West need to go down?
I don't know.
For people to suddenly look at things differently and say, okay, maybe we need something on-prem, or have this quantum shift in technology change.
So we talk about this a lot, right? Customers, a lot of times, no matter how much they prepare, aren't prepared for a breach. But once they experience some level of a breach, the scale of ability to be prepared is astronomical, right? Because once you actually experience something, you can form a better picture of it.
Well, the analogy doesn't work with every industry.
By the way, we don't promote the Amazon forest fires.
We don't.
Just throwing that out there.
We want the earth to breathe.
Yes.
So
also that was fake news, though. I don't know if you guys read that.
Was it fake news?
Yeah. So there was a good fact checking article about is the Amazon the lungs of the earth?
That's fake.
Yeah,
news
that was completely fake. Emmanuel Macron, the French president, started this. He tweeted this way out of date picture of the Amazon burning. They had all kinds of scientists come in on this fact checking article and were like, no. 20% of the oxygen in the earth does not come from the Amazon. It's like a gigantic number of factors that contributes to it. that we will have enough oxygen. So anyway,
Okay,
I digress.
good to know. I feel better now.
Yeah, I felt better too.
So the industry thing works with, it seems to only really, that analogy plays with two of almost identical products. If you look at Coke and Pepsi, they taste different. Everyone has their preference, but they're fundamentally very, very similar. When you get into things like fashion and you get into things like social media, is another good example. I mean, Facebook upgraded MySpace, but there's a lot of different social media offerings, and certain people take different things because it's a tasting. Or video games, another good one too. That sort of follows the same model with EA and Activision being the big players, but there's other. It's a little bit different because there's different segments of how that works.
I think in that regard, the bar to create games has gotten way lower. You actually don't need to be like a programming genius to make a game in 2019.
There's so many bad iPhone games.
Whereas if you want to bottle and distribute soft beverage, you need an infrastructure.
You need an infrastructure that like most people will never be able to attain.
Correct.
And so, to your point, it is very different for different industries.
And if you look at like fashion too, like, there's certain fashions that it's based on your age and stuff makes a factor. So it doesn't apply for everything, but I find it to be, and I don't know if it'll apply for security. I'm not saying there's going to be one day, Dell and then Microsoft or whoever it's going to be, or Microsoft. And
I mean, it will probably get to that point.
Could be that way. Like we have the Coke and Pepsi model.
You have big players in like the EDR industry, the SIM industry, and then we're only seeing more consolidation over time. So it's just kind of the nature of the system, and that's why antitrust laws exist, but apparently we ignore them in the U.S.
So the other, I know, right? Well, it's a great movie. Shout out to Antitrust movie.
Right.
So the other comment I had on that is I listened to John Carmack recently on Rogan. I know I'm a Rogan fan.
Coming for you.
And so
Rogan who?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, that's the next hashtag slogan.
Rogan who?
Yeah, we got to get shirts that say Rogan who. Yes.
So John Carmack, famous legend developer, made Doom and Wolfenstein, id Software. Super smart guy. There's so many nuggets from that talk, but just to talk about Moore's Law. And when he commented, I want to get your guys' take on this, kind of off the news, but sort of made me think about it when you're talking about technology evolving. He said we're approaching the upper limits of Moore's Law. And we've seen this with computers. I mean, I built a gaming computer in 2014 that still works pretty good today. But that wasn't the case 15 years ago. Your computer was out of date a year later. You couldn't run the most current stuff. He's saying we're approaching the upper limits of that, and that there's still a lot of room to go with like cost reduction, but the economies of scale or the leaps we're going to have to make to get incremental increases is going to be astronomical to where we won't do it. It won't be commercially viable.
I personally believe that's for a period of time until a new technology is invented.
Yeah.
Right? For us to scale, as an example, current processors and GPUs, yes, there's only so far they can go because right now all it is about trying to cram more crap on a chip.
There's a molecular issue with you get so small that they start to be
with the transistors.
Exactly.
Right?
Correct.
But when they find some new way to do transistors or some new metal or that they can synthetically make or something, right? There's going to be some technology, Iron Man nanotechnology, whatever it may be, they're going to come up with, and that's going to flip the game, right? It'll happen eventually. Yeah, we're in this age where we've gotten progressively better with things and spent more time on software and automation instead of, like in the 50s where the technology was growing so rapidly. But at some point there will be something new that we either have here, mine on another planet, whatever it may be, that's going to flip the way technology works.
So the question that Rogan asked...
That's my opinion.
And that's kind of what I think too, on the outside looking in. Rogan asked Carmack, and this is what Ben Johnson, I wanted to ask him when he was on, but he was like, I don't want to talk about that. He talked about it to me when we were in Rocky Mountain, though. He talked about quantum computing. That's what he asked. And
is that in the multiverse? That's
in the multiverse. Perfect. And so I don't know if that's the answer or not. I don't know enough about it. I'm too much of a layman, but is it something like that or something different than that?
I have read about quantum computing and I still don't understand. I couldn't even begin to explain to you what a quantum computer is.
I'll draw it on the whiteboard for you guys later.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
We'll record that.
But yeah, I think at some point something like that will come to fruition. I mean, there's stuff that they have in theoretical labs, right? That when they finally can produce that in technology will completely change the way we do things. But it's all theoretical right now. Trial and error.
I think it's... Go ahead.
I was gonna say he was on talking about. Actually, I was gonna go side tangent, so finish what you're gonna say.
I was just gonna say it's interesting to look at the history of human civilization because you have for a long periods of time things remain relatively constant.
Yep.
Being the Greek history aficionado that I am, I always got to go back to it. They were basically the same civilization in a lot of ways for like 12 to 1300 years.
Yeah.
And then you have like these moments of change. So you could look at like the Renaissance. This is going beyond Greek history, but the Renaissance where suddenly like certain things become like just barely comprehensible enough where people are able to build on it. And if you look in like the modern era, the integrated circuits and that kind of thing, like you have these little things that become available that are like building blocks to larger achievements. So I think, yes, like Moore's law specifically, I'm probably going to say the wrong thing here, but it was about like the speed of computers. It keeps growing exponentially up until a certain point, whatever the case. That applied to one type of computer, but we have all this technology basically to study and design and build another theoretical computer. It's like the 3D printing.
That's a good example of something we never would have saw or thought of.
Yeah,
being commercially, like for the end user being there.
Yeah, well, with 3D printing specifically, okay, well now you have a 3D printer. You can build a better 3D printer with this 3D printer. You can build more precise parts.
It's the AI argument.
So as an interesting example, I would say somewhere in the neighborhood of 12 to 15 years ago, I worked in the Bay Area, and right near this place we used to live to go to lunch, there was a printing place, and they had one of those original huge, giant couch-sized 3D printers that made some really cool stuff. That was way back then. It's just now gotten popular in the last 3-5 years.
Yeah,
so some of this stuff, it just takes time to be able to mass market it. So there's something out there right now that is highly innovative. They just can't sell it for something that's effective.
That was what I was going to go to next. That's what John Carmack was on talking about was VR. I've been following that since the very beginning.
He's been a long time.
Vice president of Oculus. Yeah.
I remember the old Nintendo one, the Virtual Boy. Was that what it was?
Yeah.
How cheesy that was. I remember going to like Fry's Electronics and like checking that out. Mm-hmm. But I've been watching Oculus since the beginning, and the recent ones are amazing, and it's interesting how that's going to change the world. Do you think that has an impact, any kind of impact in security in any way? Is VR going to have any kind of?
It will be. I mean, we've talked about some cool things that you could do with VR from a training perspective.
Right.
I don't know if you're going to go all, hacker Johnny Mnemonic where you're looking at a thing and flying through computers and stuff, but you never know eventually, I guess.
Visualization helps in a lot of ways. I mean, you put data in a graph and suddenly people understand it differently. You might be able to visualize something like various types of activity in a virtual space. I mean, someone could probably do a really cool DEF CON talk about that, but I don't see the practical application of it quite yet.
I was just curious.
I would like to one day have a like Google Glass, and I walk into an empty room, and then I go to work.
AR.
AR, right? Yeah. And then I work from home, and everyone's like on the beach somewhere. That's the office, because you can just like flip through like what.
I don't know if I want that level of fakeness in my room.
Monday it's the beach. The next day it's the desert. Switch through environments for your virtual office. That's what I want.
After I'm doing a lot of promotion at John Carmack, but they were talking about this movie, and I went and watched it after. Have you guys seen Lawnmower Man?
Yes. I have tried to watch Lawnmower Man.
Yes, I've seen it.
It's so bad.
It is.
It's so bad.
I'm surprised that didn't actually make it on our list.
I know.
It is. You know what? It is. We need to do a Hacker Movies round 2 now that we have the studio, all the right stuff, and the video. We need to have a hacking movies round 2.
It's got to be after we write ours, so ours could be number 1, right?
Correct.
Doesn't that have Pierce Brosnan in it?
Yeah, he's the psychiatrist or the scientist character. Right. Yeah, it's really bad. The guy from Lost is like the main guy in it.
Yeah, I remember watching it like 10 years ago, and it was unwatchable then. I can't even imagine what it's like now.
The CGI in it is so. There was a period of time when it was like too early, so it was like Tron, where it was like stylized, right?
Yeah.
And then there was a period in the middle from like 92 to like 2002 where it was like bad, like it just
noticeably bad.
It looks it doesn't look right, and it fell in that time.
I have to mention it only because every time we talk about CGI in that era, Lord of the Rings, the first one, incredible CGI, incredible effects.
Yeah, that was like 99, right?
That was right in the middle of that era where CGI was like definitely bad, but they somehow nailed it.
And The Matrix was at that same time, they both nailed it.
Yeah, every time I watch the opening scene of Lord of the Rings, I'm just blown away with how good and like up to date that looks. I can't believe it.
He just can't get out of his head because today we're talking about the Amazon series that they're getting ready to.
What are they going to launch?
They're doing a full TV series of Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, it's supposed to be like
the most expensive show ever.
Yeah, it's supposed to be like a prequel before The Hobbit, before Lord of the Rings.
Are you guys big Lord of the Rings fans?
I love Lord of the Rings.
I love Lord of the Rings as well.
Not to do any kind of spoiler, but I watched a YouTube video after we talked about that, and they said that based on the teaser images that they've displayed, they think it's during the second era of the scenario of the how things are in the world of Lord of the Rings.
Okay. I heard it was about a young Aragorn, but I don't know that for sure. That was an original fan theory.
So. What makes Lord of the Rings really, really good, in my opinion, the story is excellent.
Timeless, yeah.
But then there's the two things that make that first. I like The Hobbit too, but the first three is really what I'm talking about. Peter Jackson's is badass. So he does a lot of amazing stuff. And then Viggo Mortensen is amazing. Elijah Wood's an amazing actor, underrated. Hugo Weaving's like such a multi-talented guy. They have such an all-star cast. Trevelyan, I don't know the actor's name, but he was Trevelyan in Goldeneye. He plays, what's his name? Boromir.
Oh, Sean Bean.
Sean Bean. Yeah, Sean Bean's really good. Liv Tyler. They have such a great,
it's perfectly cast.
Perfect. Orlando Bloom is the only role I like him in. Everything else I can't stand him in.
Yep.
But he's great.
He just looks like an elf.
Yeah.
He's perfect.
He was born to play that role.
Every time I see Orlando Bloom, I'm like, screw that guy. And then I remember, oh yeah, that's right. He was in Lord of the Rings and he was good. And then the Gimli, he's a great like actor. Remember he's in King Solomon's Mine. He's been in a bunch of stuff.
He was in Indiana Jones. John Rhys Davies.
That's it. Yeah. Anyways, it was the cast that really makes that movie.
And they took it seriously. Like you could have very easily have made like this campy, tongue-in-cheek fantasy story with Lord of the Rings as the backdrop, but they took it like really seriously. They believed in the source material. So
not many series have been able to make that many movies that have really flowed together and all been top quality.
Once again, diverge back into movies again on the Hash Time Show. All right, so I think we're running low on time, so let's just do our breach of the week, guys, and then call it a day. You guys good with that?
Sure.
Segment number 3, breach of the week. Android Trojan called Joker signs users up for premium subscriptions.
Of what?
That was my thing. So this is... I didn't have a stupidest thing in cybersecurity this week.
I feel naked today. I don't have my computer because I was off today and I came in just for you.
Thank you, Jeff. I appreciate that.
So I did not have a chance to read that one.
So let me read up, give you a little bit more on this one. So this is a Trojan called Joker on the Google Play Store that had, it was detected on 24 apps with over 472,000 downloads. It was harvesting sensitive data, contact list, text messages, device info, and it was also signing up people for premium subscriptions. So this must have been in apps or on secondary things. I don't know if I saw the actual what they were.
Yeah, was this like using like the Google Wallet, or is this using like
it looks like
the App Store, the Play Store to add a subscription?
With access to text messages, the Trojan extracts codes from authorization messages to subscribe users to premium services.
Yeah, it looks like it was delivered through some kind of malware advertising.
On the back end. Mm-hmm. So they targeted primarily European and Asian countries.
People, check your apps.
Yes. Don't install crap.
So it's weird.
Don't install crap.
I'm always not worried about my phone, but I should be, because my computer, I've had tons of, I was building computers back in the early 2000s, late 90s, where you clicked on one bad link, you had to wipe your disk. Yeah. Like I remember those days of like, I had a disk ready because I interned at Intel. They gave me like one of those like corporate disks you could install multiple instances on. I actually worked in the PC supply department. So at like, whatever, I was 17, 18 years old. So I would just...
Did you ever get a virus on your Windows 95 PC and have to put those 32 floppy disks in? Oh my gosh.
No, because I was in 98 by then. I'm a little bit younger, a couple years younger than you, but 98, I had to wipe that and reinstall it so many times because I would just get blue screen and then you would just be...
So this is my problem. I started building computers with my grandfather when I was like 7 years old.
Yeah, so you're a couple years ahead of me when you were doing that.
And so my patience ran thin from there on out.
37 floppy disks.
That's when Jeff invented the CD.
I wish.
So my mom would always she bought us a PC, and I was AOL and all that. And I remember I had that's how I learned how to work on computers, is I was wrecking arse over and over again, I was going to a lot of inappropriate websites and doing a lot of like going to anarchist cookbook type stuff and clicking on links in chat rooms. Oh, I wonder what this is. The little thing comes up, you've been hacked. So yeah, I got in trouble a lot.
I can't divulge my activities during that time frame.
You're under court order. Witness protection.
Under court order.
Yeah. So my point is that because that's my background with computers, I'm very sensitive to computers being hacked, especially PCs. I turn the fan on, get cooled off. But my iPhone, I'm like, man, I can't get hacked. It's an iPhone.
It's really loud.
Is this coming through in the mic?
I can't hear it. But what I've learned here is that your phone can be hacked, and they are being hacked all the time.
Oh, yeah.
It's a computer.
The only reason you don't hear about mobile stuff so much here at Data Shield is just like we don't have a good way to monitor it.
Yeah, well, what's the future of that? Is there a way to monitor endpoints
there's lots of ways you can lock down a phone for business. Absolutely. You can actually virtualize everything you need inside a phone.
So there's, MDM is a big thing. And if, people have good MDM platforms, we can monitor some of that stuff. But I would say the interesting part is you could do a lot of stuff on a Google OS phone. Apple prevents you from doing so many things.
From a security standpoint?
From a security standpoint, because it also opens you up to risk, right? So they're trying to balance risk versus reward on security there. And so they just lock things out. Like, for instance, you can very easily build proxy apps and different things on a Google phone to be able to, take over traffic, monitor traffic. But on an iPhone, it's very difficult.
Right.
So, it is what it is, but...
iPhone exploits are now worth more than Android exploits.
Yep, because there's less of them.
It's coming. The fallacy that iPhones and Apple stuff could never be hacked is nonsense.
Well, that's all been proven. It's just...
What?
No, it's been proven that it's hackable.
Oh, okay. I thought you said it's been proven that it...
Nothing is hackable,
Not
Dave.
hackable. I was like...
We're all falsely here. There's no hacks.
We need to redo the Windows versus Apple, PC versus Apple with you as the PC guy and then you as the Apple guy. Can we redo those for Data Shield?
Unfortunately,
packet versus logs or something.
There's
like
a competitor who already did
Oh,
some of that.
That's
so it's
right. That would be ripping
that'd be
off.
lame.
Yeah, it'd be lame.
We could do us versus them.
There you go.
Yeah. MDR versus MDR.
Yeah. Face off. Cage match.
Cage match.
Or would that be like Face Match with John Travolta?
Face
Off
yeah.
with John Travolta.
That's a bad movie.
Yeah.
I like that movie.
Good movie.
I have a soft spot for that movie.
Oh, man. I can't think of anything with John Travolta that's good.
Saturday Night Fever.
Him and Nicolas Cage, though? Come on.
Nick Cage, man.
How can you beat that?
Nick Cage is great. He's brought down by John.
I was waiting for something like funny, and then you're like being serious, which is true.
Yeah.
All right, well, guys, that's all we have for this week. Thank you for tuning. Thanks for staying late, guys, to do the Hashtime Show. I appreciate it. And thanks to all our listeners. We'll catch you guys next week.
Thank you for listening to the Hashtime Show. Check us out online at hashtimeshow.com.
Also, that was fake news, though. I don't know if you guys read that.
I may say that's dumb or you're an idiot.
So that's the reason you can't find me.